All right, boys, what's good? It's Herm. We're here with a mock draft. The draft lottery is on the 17th, I believe, so it is upcoming this next week, and I'm excited for it. It's either the 17th or the 15th. It's sometime next week, the draft lottery is. So we're going to know the official order for this mock draft. I'm just going to go with the standings at the end of the season and just go over that. So I'm excited for this. I haven't done a mock draft in a couple months. It's a big staple of the channel, and we're coming into mock draft season. We're coming into draft season, so I'm excited to talk about it with you guys. I'm going on vacation, so I thought I could pre-record this a little bit, get this out there, but let's just get into it. Let's not waste all that time. But again, think about subscribing if you're new, but let's just talk about it. So first overall, the Pistons have the first overall pick, and I mean, it doesn't really matter what their needs are, because if you're picking first overall, you're picking Victor Wembanyama, 7'5" center out of France, plays like a guard. He's unbelievable. He is the best prospect to come in probably since LeBron, maybe ever, some people say. So I think Victor Wembanyama is a no-brainer. Whether you play him at the 4 with Duren at the 5, or what you want to do with the team going forward, that might change, but you have kind of a big 3 going forward of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Victor Wembanyama to hopefully lead you back to the playoffs. I think he's the no-brainer pick here at 1 for Detroit, so I won't waste a ton of time on it. When we're looking at second, so we have the Houston Rockets here. I actually think this comes down to 2 players. It's either Brandon Miller or it's Scoot Henderson, and this kind of depends on what you think the Rockets are going to do in the offseason. Do they bring back James Harden? A lot of people think they will. That means you'd probably have a Harden-Green backcourt. You probably don't want a point guard like Scoot Henderson. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. A lot of people think they'll bring in a wing like Jaylen Brown or Chris Middleton. So then what do? I'm going to assume that they bring back Harden here. I know this is it's not necessarily a hot take, but it's a bold kind of thing to assume, but I'm going to assume Harden comes back. They have Harden and Green in the backcourt. They have Sengun at the 5. I love Sengun. He's that guy. They have Jabari Smith at the 4, as well as Tari Eason can maybe play the 4. But I think they take Brandon Miller, 6'8" out of Alabama, was pretty easily the best freshman in college basketball this season, was an All-American, averaged like 20 points a game, really solid scorer, gets some comparisons to Paul George. So I think he's a pretty easy pick here for Houston, especially if you think Harden's coming. If you think Harden's not coming, if you think you're getting Jaylen Brown, you go Scoot Henderson. But I'm gonna for this exercise, I'm gonna take Brandon Miller. And that means with the third pick, the Spurs are on the clock. I know they have Trey Jones. I know Trey Jones is kind of nice. Like, his assist-to-turnover ratio is really good. Good passer, pretty solid defender. But you just take best player available here, and to me that is pretty easily Scoot Henderson. They have Sohan in more of a point forward role, which makes sense because Scoot to me isn't necessarily the most pure point guard you're ever going to see. I've heard him called efficient Westbrook, which I think is totally disrespectful to Westbrook, but that's not really the point. I think Scoot to me here brings you scoring, brings athleticism. I think with Keldon Johnson, with Sohan, I actually really like Devin Vassell for them this year. I think Scoot can be in the backcourt with Vassell going forward, and Branham as well. Malachi Branham's really good. Devin Vassell's good. I like what they have there, but Scoot to me is a pretty easy pick here at 3. A lot of people think he's the second best player in this class. He will not slip past 3. I just think it's not going to happen. And that means at number 4, who do we have? We have the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets could go multiple different directions. They have LaMelo Ball. I actually think Miles Bridges is probably coming back this offseason. I think they made like an official suspension. The league announced for Miles Bridges, so he's probably going to come back. PJ Washington, I believe, is a free agent though, so who knows what's going to happen in the front court. They got Mark Williams. Actually, I really like Mark Williams as a center. I think they're pretty locked up at center. I'm going to go with Amen Thompson, I think. Get a great defender. Not quite as good of a defender as Asar, I don't think. I think Asar is a little better defender. But Amen Thompson is the pure athlete, 99th percentile athlete. I think you have him, you have Bridges, maybe you even have Washington, who was kind of unleashed down the stretch, looked really good. So I think Amen Thompson, with his height, with his athleticism, they've been trying to add a guard in the backcourt with LaMelo for a while now. They tried it with Bouknight, and Bouknight just wasn't really that. Bryce McGowan has shown some kind of promise here and there. Terry Rozier, probably not the long-term guy there. So I think Thompson is the long-term backcourt mate with LaMelo Ball going forward. And then at number 5, who do we have on the clock? We have the Portland Trailblazers. This would be a prime pick for the Trailblazers to trade out of, I think. This would be like a very big thing for them to potentially do here. But to me, I think you're looking at one spot here. You're looking at a forward spot. You have Dame, you have Simons, you have Sharp in the backcourt. Your backcourt's pretty set. I don't like Nurkic. I think Nurkic is probably gone, but there's no center at this point you really want to take. The best center on the board is probably Derek Lively, who's projected in the 20s. I think he's more of a late teens guy, but we'll get to him. And to me, I think it has to be either Jarace Walker or it has to be Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore, a little bit of a better athlete. Jarace Walker, more physical, dominating force. They have Nasir Little already, who's kind of more of an athlete. If they bring Jeremy Grant back, kind of scrawnier, skinnier, more of an athlete. So I'm going to take the physically imposing presence. I'm going to take Jarace Walker. I don't think they would stay here at 5, but if they did, I think Walker's the right choice. So he's who I would take for the Portland Trailblazers. And that means we have the Orlando Magic on the clock at 6. They're also going to have the Bulls pick, which is a little later. But what do they do here? They want to go upside. They want best players. They want great players. They have Banchero and Franz as kind of their guys going forward, kind of a forward tandem. But Franz can play the 2. I've seen Franz play the 2. I've seen him do it well. So I'm going to take the guy who I think has the highest upside right here. I'm actually not going to take Ausar Thompson because I think whether Markelle Fultz is the long-term point guard, shooting guard, or Franz is the 2, I think they can handle the backcourt a little better. I'm going to take Cam Whitmore. I think he has the highest upside here. He's kind of like a truck. He'll go downhill. He'll blow through guys. He's kind of a bruiser. He's an athletic bruiser who gets to the rim. I haven't seen a ton of great comparisons for him. I like not a great shooter right now, but getting to the rim, I think him and Banchero would be super physically imposing, and I like that for them. That means at number 7, we have the Pacers on the clock. So they have Halliburton, they have Mathurin. That's kind of their main 2 guys going forward. I actually really like Nembhard for them as well. So I think they also need a power forward, but there's not a ton of great power forwards on the board right here. So the biggest thing for me, I'm going to say ignore the big man that they kind of need. I think they need someone next to Turner in the front court. I think Taylor Hendricks is on the board. He's a guy that could be selected this high, but I think 7 is kind of a reach for a guy like Taylor Hendricks. They don't have defense in the backcourt. Halliburton, Mathurin, as much as I like both of them, they're not really great defenders. They're really good offensive players. Halliburton is an elite passer, obviously, but Ausar Thompson is a great defender. I think adding him into the backcourt could be a nice kind of change of pace. Mathurin can play the 3 as well. He doesn't have to play the 2, so Ausar Thompson for me is going at 7. Then at number 8, we have the Wizards on the clock. They have a bunch of needs, honestly. Who knows who they're going to bring back? Both Kuzma and Porzingis are probably free agents. I think Porzingis is a player option. Kuzma might be as well, but they're both going to be free agents. Bradley Beal's there for the long term, unless they end up trading him, but shooting guard there for them. They need a center as well. I mean, unless you count Porzingis as a center. Some people do, some people don't. But for me, I think they need a point guard. I think point guard is the biggest need for this team. Nick Smith Jr. is higher upside, but after they took Johnny Davis last year, it was kind of an upside swing, a score, a guy kind of like Beal. I think it's better to go safer. A great playmaker, a great passer. So I'm actually going to go Cason Wallace out of Kentucky. I think goes number 8 to the Wizards here. It's a little above his range, but I like the fit, so I'm going to take him there. At number 9, we have the Jazz on the clock. Also need a point guard. And the best point guard to me is off the board. They have a lot of different needs, so I think you can just go best player available here. They have Lauri Markkanen, they have Walker Kessler, so probably the 4 and the 3, or the 3 and the 5, whichever you want to play it. I think those positions are locked up. You could add Hendricks in there, but that's not exactly what I want to do. I'm actually going to add a wing. I'm going to add a guy who can shoot, space the floor. A guy like Grady Dick, I think, is a great floor spacer. Was pretty good at Kansas for a freshman on one of the best teams in the country. A big contributor. Spaces the floor. Needs to put on some weight. He's pretty scrawny, but I like his fit as a 6'7" guy. I think there's arguments he's taller than that too. So he feels like a Jazz type of guy for me. So I like the fit. At number 10, we have the Mavs on the clock. They need a big dude, man. Christian Wood is there, but is he going to be there long term? I actually don't know. I think he might leave. I'm going to take Taylor Hendricks. I think Taylor Hendricks is the pick for me. Probably a power forward, maybe can play some small ball center. It seems more and more likely every day that Hendricks is going to go top 10. I think he's a good fit. I think he really is what the Mavs need, and he fills a void for them. So that's what I'm going to go with. With 11, we have the Magic on the clock again. Last time they took Cam Whitmore, kind of an upside guy. They have Wendell Carter at the 5, so probably you go backcourt here. You probably go with Cam Whitmore, with Paolo Banchero. You probably want a little bit more spacing. Jordan Hawkins is probably the best spacer in this draft class, but to me, I think it's too early for him. Keontae George, I've seen some rumors he might slip, but I actually like him here going to the Magic. Really good score, 15 points per game for Baylor this year. The field goal percentage, not great. We're not going to look at that. That's not as important, at least to me right now. He gives you kind of like a cheaper replacement for Cole Anthony, maybe, as an option here, with upside higher than Cole Anthony. So I think this is kind of a swing, but it's safer to me than taking someone like Nick Smith. So I think George for me is the pick here. Number 12, we have the Thunder on the clock. The Thunder, I feel like, don't have a ton of needs. They need a big man badly, but you're not going to reach on a big man here. I think it's still too early for Derek Lively. I know the Thunder have shown us sometimes they don't really care where people are projected, but to me, I still think it's too early. So I think they go upside. They have so many picks over the next few years. Nick Smith Jr. was projected as one of the best freshmen in the country. Kind of struggled. He had injuries, but even when on the court, he wasn't awesome. But I think Nick Smith here could be a great potential future backcourt mate with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But worst case scenario, I think Nick Smith Jr. is a phenomenal six-man. So I like the pick. I think it's an upside pick, but the Thunder have the ability to do that just because of how many picks they have. The Toronto Raptors on the board at 13. I think he's slipped long enough. They have some different needs. Fred VanVleet probably leaving in free agency. Who knows what's going to happen with Gary Trent? He probably leaves as well, realistically. So they have OG, who it sounds like they might trade. Pascal and Scotty are kind of the long-term guys. But Anthony Black is just the best guy on the board. As a freshman at Arkansas, he was their best freshman. I mean, he went there with Nick Smith, and Nick Smith was projected to be the top guy, but as a 6'7" shooting guard, 13 points per game, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, pretty efficient at 45% with the effective field goal percentage, so at least a lot more than Keontae George. But I like Black here. I mean, come on, it's great value at 13. ESPN has him ranked at 8th, so I think he's slipped long enough, and you just take him here, kind of best player available type argument. At 14, the Pelicans are here with the last pick in the lottery. Kind of a disappointing season for the Pelicans, I'd say, with the Zion injuries and all that stuff. They still need a point guard. To me, I don't think whatever his name is, Dyson Daniels, is probably the long-term point guard. But I also just think they need shooting. They need spacing. And Jordan Hawkins is the best spacer in this draft class to me. Can take, kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but that's not a pin down, but it's the thing Sabonis does. Dribble handoffs all the time. He's going to pull up off a dribble handoffs. He can be a very similar player to someone like Kevin Huerter with the Kings, where he's coming off of screens, he's hitting threes, he doesn't need to be super on balance. Klay Thompson, light, more like a Kevin Huerter type, but I think it's a good fit. They need shooting, and he gives them a lot of it. So we're looking at the Hawks here at 15 with a actually kind of surprisingly decent playoff run. And for me, what do they even need? I mean, they have Okongwu, it says they need a center. Okongwu, Capella, they have 2 guards, they have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, but with Collins in the front court, they're probably looking for a different kind of 4 or 3. They don't need more scoring as much, but I actually like the athleticism of someone like Noah Clowney, played alongside the guy I picked second in Brandon Miller. They were kind of an elite freshman duo. Can be great in the pick and roll with Trae, can throw lobs. As John Collins has kind of regressed over time, I think Noah Clowney kind of provides you what you thought he could have been. This athletic guy who can work on his shot, space a little bit, and attack the rim, catch lobs. I like Noah Clowney's fit. He just provides you what you thought John Collins was going to give you. So I like that for them. Who do we have at 16? We have the Jazz on the clock again. I had them take Grady Dick the first time. They still need a point guard, but Jalen Hood-Schifino isn't really a pure point guard. He's more of a 2-guard than a point guard to me. So what are you going to do here? Jalen Hood-Schifino is still a great defender. He works hard, but you probably don't go just pure upside again and takes another like kind of wing guard type guy. You don't take a big either. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to take Hood-Schifino. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is a great prospect. Really rose throughout the process over his single season at Indiana alongside their great big guy there, Trace Jackson Davis. The two of them are very good together in the pick and roll. 6'5", 200, can be the point guard. I think he has to develop a little bit more as a passer, but he's a good scorer, a good shooter right now, and projects as a good defender. So I like him for them. We have the Lakers on the clock at 17. This would be great value for them because it looks like they're going to make the conference finals. So if they're picking at 17, you're really happy with how that turned out. And to me, I think Jett Howard is a perfect fit for them. I'm glad he's still here. I think this is ideal. Scorer, shooter on the wing. They're probably going to lose at least one of Lonnie Walker and Austin Reeves. So to get Jett Howard there, I think is a perfect fit. And he projects as a guy that can be a 20-point-per-game scorer. The son of Juwan Howard. Is just a really good player, and even though he's a coach's kid, he's a great dude. We're looking at 18 here. We have the Miami Heat on the clock. You know, they've had all this success with undrafted free agents, but now they have a good pick. This is a good pick at 18. They need scoring. I know they've been a better offense during the playoffs, but throughout the regular season, they were just not good offensively. And Bryce Sensabaugh is a bucket. Not a super great athlete, not a super conventional kind of play style at 6'5", 235. He's kind of a bigger dude, physical. He'll hit you with a little post fade type stuff. But unorthodox is kind of what the Heat do, so this is a great fit for the Heat. Bryce Sensabaugh is a bucket. At number 19, we have the Golden State Warriors on the clock. They have a ton of different needs. And as Kuminga hasn't really worked out, as Wiseman hasn't really worked out, they already moved on from Wiseman. Kuminga's still there. I'm going to take a backup center. I know they have Kevon Looney, who's a great rebounder, but Derek Lively projects as a very good rim protector and rebounder. So if you can move on from Kevon Looney in the starting lineup, you keep him there, but you keep Lively as a backup. So you have two guys that can rebound and block shots. Depth is never a bad thing. So in the kind of mid to late first round here, that's kind of what you're looking at anyway. 7'2", 215. He got better as the season went along for Duke after being like the top ranked prospect in the class, but he just got better as the season went along. The Rockets on the clock at 20. I had them take Brandon Miller already. So they got the kind of bigger man they need, and now they need a point guard. What are the point guards on the board? So we have Kobe Buffkin at 21 out of Michigan. I actually think he's a little overranked to me. They don't have super efficient shooters either, so if you're looking at efficient shooters, you're looking at either Dariq Whitehead, who wasn't super great at Duke but was great in high school, or Ryan Rupert, an international guy. They've had success with Şengün, and they've had some other guys that they've looked at. I think Rupert is the pick here out of, I believe he played in the NBL. No, he played in France. Probably the same league as Killian, so I'm sure Kevin O'Connor loves that dude. But the Brooklyn Nets here at 21, we can pick this up a little. I feel like I'm lagging a little bit. But who are we looking at for them at 21? They have a ton of different needs. I feel like, you know, they don't have a ton of great players. They need upside in a lot of spots. I'm going to go Chris Murray, Jr. out of Iowa. If he can provide you something similar to Keegan, he's just kind of the other-handedness as Keegan. 20 points per game this season at Iowa, and just be a solid, efficient presence in the front court. This kind of just gives you a backup plan in case Cam Johnson leaves in free agency. So I think he can play a similar role to what Cam Johnson does for them right now. At 22, the Nets are on the clock again. I don't know, maybe they take a guard. Like Spencer Dinwiddie is their point guard right now. So I'm going to take Kobe Buffkin. I know I don't love him. I don't think he's a great prospect. He's kind of risen throughout the process. But I think this is a little higher than he should go, but we'll see where he ends up going. They get a point guard. They need a point guard. So it's kind of a fit thing more than anything else for me. At 23, the Portland Trailblazers on the clock already took Jarris Walker. Jeremy Grant could leave. I don't think a center here makes sense. I'm not going to take James Nagy. He's actually really raw, and this team wants to compete right now. So I'm going to take another wing. I don't want Leonard Miller. Bilal Koulibaly out of France. That's not my dude either. I'm going to take Gigi Jackson, a dude that was ranked much higher during the early season and had some up and downs, but I think he's still a high upside guy who can contribute early on, but he's still young. So I like the pick here. They get a couple of good, valuable forwards that can impact the roster. We have the Kings at 24. Harrison Barnes is probably the most upgradable spot, so you're probably looking for a forward once again. Maxwell Lewis is an option. Dariq Whitehead on the wing is an option. I'm going to take Leonard Miller, a guy out of Canada. I believe he went and played in the G League Ignite this season, and was a guy that was getting draft consideration last year, didn't end up going. Has a high upside as a kind of wing defender. Isn't probably going to be a super high upside offensive player, but they're one of the best offenses we've ever seen. So if they can get a lengthy defender, I think that's helpful for the team. At 25, we have the Grizzlies on the clock. Dariq Whitehead. I'm taking the shooting. I think this is good value at 25. I know they say he's ranked 23. Earlier in the season, he was ranked much higher. Can shoot, can space the floor. If they end up losing Luke Kennard, who he might end up staying anyway. But Dillon Brooks did provide some offense, so they can replace that here with Dariq Whitehead. At 26, we have the Pacers. I already had them taking Asar Thompson, but like I said, I think they need some front court help as well. I'm going to take James Naji. Have kind of a front court duo of him and Turner. They just paid Turner. Do they want to keep him long term? Who actually knows? But James Naji provides more front court depth. They need it, so just a fit thing for me. Hornets on the clock at 27. I had them take Amen Thompson originally. They probably take a wing here. I'm going to take Maxwell Lewis out of Pepperdine. 17 points per game, 6 rebounds. There was a point earlier on where he was getting some kind of lottery discussion, but as the season went along, his performance kind of tapered, and so did that talk. But I think he has upside. It was a sophomore that was much better in year 2 than he was in year 1, and just can provide a little, maybe more immediate contribution for a Hornets team that needs it. At 28, we have the Jazz once again. I already took Grady Dick and Jalen Hood-Schifino. So they have a developable point guard, a wing. What else do they need? I mean, they don't really want to back up big man, probably. I think that you take Andre Jackson, honestly. Andre Jackson, to me, is a guy that throughout March Madness, throughout the most important games of the season, was really good. As a defender, as just a smart ball player. So the Jazz like smart guys. I mean, Will Hardy's a really good coach. He likes that type of player. I think it makes sense. It's kind of a risk here as a guy who really kind of blossomed as a junior, but I like the pick. At 29, the Pacers are on the clock once again. Asar Thompson, James Naji. Who do you take here? I'm going to go upside at this point in the first round, and I'm going to take Terquavion Smith. Again, once a guy who is considered maybe a lottery pick. Still needs to put on weight. 165 is just too scrawny. But 18 points per game, great at attacking the rim, super athletic. You know, maybe kind of redundant with a guy like Benedict Mathurin, but I like the fit. And at number 30, we have the last pick going to the Clippers. They do need a point guard for sure, especially if Russ doesn't return. They need a big man. I don't know. I'll go Trace Jackson Davis. I think he deserves a first-round talent. He's a first-round talent to me. A guy that was just dominant in college, 21 points, 11 rebounds, 58% effective field goal. Super good player, and just deserves to be a first-round talent. So this is my first round. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'm kind of in a rush trying to get to bed, but hopefully you guys enjoy this one. It's not quite as long as some of my other mock drafts, but as the season goes along, we'll get deeper into detail. After the lottery and we know the official order, I'll make another mock and go deeper into that. So hopefully you enjoyed. Again, think about subscribing. Thanks for all the support lately. It's been great. Hopefully this one does well. We'll see, but hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.